Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let 'em say we're crazy, I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby, don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this dream together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now. And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
The National Hockey League was founded in 1917. Only 6 teams remain from then. The teams that remain are known today as the original 6. Most of these teams were in the Midwest and East Coast. In the late 1960s, they would expand to add 6 more teams. It would stretch the league all the way to the West Coast. However, they would soon find competition. In 1971, a rival league to the NHL was founded in the World Hockey Association, or WHA. The WHA was founded by Canadian businessman Bill Hunter, who had wanted to bring a team to Edmonton. The team would be named the Alberta Oilers, as they planned to play half their games between Edmonton and Calgary. They would, however, settle in Edmonton, changing their name to the Edmonton Oilers. In 1976, the Oilers would acquire Glenn Sather. He was named coach of the team towards the end of the season, making him a player/coach. He would retire from playing to focus on coaching.
Like many of the sport's greatest minds, Glenn Sather acquired his knowledge of the game as a player. A native of High River, Alberta, he patrolled left wing for 6 different NHL teams, earning a reputation as a rugged, hard-working defensive specialist in his 660 NHL games. Yet it's as a coach and general manager that Sather is best remembered. From the day the Oilers joined the NHL, he began to assemble a cast that would develop into one of history's greatest dynasties. Gretzky, Messier, Coffey, and Fuhrer formed the backbone of a team that would dominate the sport.
In 1978, the Oilers were sold to local businessman Peter Pocklington. In 1978, the Oilers would acquire a teenager from the Indianapolis Racers named Wayne Gretzky. He joined the WHA due to being too young to join the NHL. The next season, the WHA and NHL agreed to a merger. The Oilers would almost lose Gretzky in a reclaim draft, but Pocklington convinced the NHL to let him keep him, claiming that Gretzky would fill every arena. In Gretzky's first year in the NHL, he led the league in points and would take home the Hart Trophy for Most Valuable Player, the first of 8 straight wins for him. The Oilers were mediocre their first few years in the NHL, losing early in the playoffs. However, coach and president Glenn Sather had begun building up a roster to surround Gretzky's talent. They would acquire talent in Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson, Jari Kurri, Paul Coffey, Kevin Lowe, and the goaltending duo of Grant Kerr and Andy Moog. The Oilers would finish near the top in 1982 and were seen as a cup contender. However, they were upset in 5 games by the Los Angeles Kings. It included blowing a 5-0 goal lead in Game 3 of the series.
An unbelievable comeback by the Kings. The Oilers had everything going their way. They led 5-0 coming into the third period. The Kings have had goals from Wells, Smith, Simmer, Hardy, but they need one more to tie. The Kings now have a 2-man advantage, but their net is open. 20 seconds to go in the game. Simmer behind the Oiler net. Front to Dion, he shoots, save, rebound, loose puck, Gretzky with it. Can't hold it, taken away by Fox. Fox in front to the blue line to Hardy. He shoots. Save, rebound, score! Do you believe it? I see it and I still don't believe it. The regulation is over, but the Kings have tied it 5-5.
Rookie Steve Bozik's game-time goal capped the greatest turnaround in Stanley Cup playoff history, but the comeback was not complete. In OT, the Oilers would let another golden opportunity slip away. Later, another Kings rookie, Darrell Evans, made sure the Oilers would not get another chance.
Smith on the draw. Shot by Evans. He scores. Oh! Look at him!
The Oilers would bounce back the next year in 1983. They would make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and face the New York Islanders. However, the Oilers were swept by the loaded Islanders in what would be their 4th straight Stanley Cup victory, the last time a team has ever four-peated. By now, the Oilers had established themselves as cup contenders, and they were only just getting started. Before the start of the 1984 season, the Oilers would name Wayne Gretzky their team captain. The Oilers would finish with the best record in the NHL, set the record for most goals by a team. Gretzky would score 200 points in a season. In the playoffs, they did face a challenge against their Alberta rival, the Calgary Flames, but they would end up winning in 7 games, and would be the first of many postseason clashes between the two teams. They would make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals, once again against the New York Islanders. The teams would split the first 2 games in Long Island before shifting to Edmonton. The Oilers would win the next 3 games in Edmonton to give them their first Stanley Cup.
As is the custom, the team captain who will accept the trophy on behalf of his teammates. Penny. Dick, he's always said the only thing that's important is the Stanley Cup. He's got to be feeling on top of the world.
They became the first Western Conference team in over 50 years to win the Cup. Mark Messier took home the Conn Smythe for playoff MVP. The words Edmonton and Stanley Cup would eventually become words that would go together nicely. The Oilers would finish at the top in 1985, led by Gretzky, Kurri, and Coffey as one of the best offenses in the league. They would march back to the Stanley Cup for a 3rd straight year. After losing Game 1, the Oilers would win 4 straight against the Philadelphia Flyers to win their 2nd Stanley Cup.
The Edmonton Oilers, the Stanley Cup champions of 1985. Gretzky has got it up high. Boy, look at the mob scene down on the ice surface. Wayne Gretzky has been presented by the president of the National Hockey League, John Ziegler, with the Stanley Cup.
Wayne Gretzky won the Conn Smythe Trophy with 47 points, a record that still stands to this day. The 1985 Oilers are considered by some to be the greatest NHL team ever. The Oilers were once again juggernauts in 1986 and looked to win their third straight Stanley Cup. While their players were good at driving to the goal, they were not so much good drivers on the road. Dave Hunter was convicted of impaired driving. Mark Messier was fined for a hit and run. The Oilers also made a controversial trade with Boston for Craig McTavish, who was serving a year in jail for vehicular homicide. Despite the team's poor driving records, the team finished with the best record in the NHL. They were awarded the inaugural President's Trophy, given to the team with the best record. In a brutal and classic 7-game series, the Oilers fell short against the Flames, ending their bid for a three-peat.
In the second period, on Steve Bozak. Oh, they score! Oh, Steve Smith, in attempting to get it out of his own zone, put it in the net. At the side of the net, he was trying to pass it out, and it hit Brad Fuhr, I believe, and went in.
Well, everybody's in a state of shock right now. In the Calgary bench, they couldn't believe it. Now, there's the puck stopped by Grant Fuhr. Watch Smith. It comes out right in front of his net and tries to pass it through the middle. It hit Grant Fuhr and goes in. Now, for a defenseman, there's so many safe plays you can make along the boards, carry it out, but not through the middle, off the left.
After the season, a Sports Illustrated article was published with scathing allegations against the Oilers. It reported that the Oilers had 5 players on cocaine. It claimed some players were heavy drinkers, and Grant Fuhr, their goalie, was dealing with financial problems. Say there are many within the NHL circle called out the article, but Sports Illustrated would stand by it, and it definitely hurt the Oilers' reputation. The Oilers looked to move past last year's playoff drama and finish with the best record in the NHL, winning the President's Trophy a second time. The offense of Gretzky, Messier, and Curry was the best. Defense leader Paul Coffey did miss time with injury, but it did not slow down the Oilers. The Oilers would return to the Stanley Cup in a rematch against the Philadelphia Flyers. The Oilers would take a 3-1 series lead over the Flyers, putting them 1 win away from a cup. Rookie Ron Hextall, a goalie for the Flyers, would not have it. Hextall's play helped the Flyers win 2 straight games to force a winner-take-all Game 7. Despite strong play from Hextall, the Oilers' defense held strong. The Oilers would pull out a 3-1 win to give them their 3rd Stanley Cup.
Head and won it. 6 seconds, 5. Hextall way out, shoots it up. And ladies and gentlemen, the Edmonton Oilers have won the 1987 Stanley Cup.
The Oilers had won 3 cups since 1984 and were a dynasty. However, like all dynasties, they come to an end, and after the season, the Oilers would slowly start to lose players who were huge members of their dynasty. The Oilers were a dynasty with 3 cups since 1984. They had many Hall of Fame players. 1988 started off on a rough note. Paul Coffey was not happy with his contract and did not report to camp. Team owner Peter Pocklington refused to renegotiate with Coffey and called him out. It led to Coffey requesting out. He would eventually be traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Craig Simpson, who was acquired from the trade, proved to be a solid Coffey replacement. The Oilers got off to a slow start due to Gretzky missing 16 games. It was the first time he failed to lead the league in scoring and lost out on the heart to Mario Lemieux. While they still made the playoffs, they lost out on the top seed to the Calgary Flames. In the second round of the playoffs, the Oilers would face the Flames. The Flames were the favorites to win the Cup. However, Edmonton shocked the world and swept them. The Oilers would make it back to the Stanley Cup, facing off against the Boston Bruins. The Oilers would win in 5 games. The only reason the series was not a sweep was Game 4 being ruled a tie due to a power outage in Boston Garden.
Cup champions, the Edmonton Oilers have won it again.
Well, I don't think anyone can argue that. His popularity, his skill, or his achievements. And he's still got a long time to play, and I'm for one. And I hope he decides to play till he's well into the 30s.
He's a great guy, a fabulous hockey player.
Wayne Gretzky had led Edmonton to 4 Stanley Cups. He had cemented himself as one of the greatest players. Little did everyone know, though, that Wayne Gretzky had just played his last game as an Edmonton Oiler.
The Stanley Cup, and listen to this crowd at the Northlands Coliseum.
The Edmonton Oilers.
The 1988 offseason would be one of the most important offseasons in NHL history. You see, after the 1989 season, Wayne Gretzky would be an unrestricted free agent. Peter Pocklington, who was struggling financially, not wanting to lose Gretzky for nothing, he began to do what was the unthinkable. Pocklington worked out a deal that would send Wayne Gretzky to the Los Angeles Kings. While unsure at first, Gretzky eventually agreed to the trade. It did help that he had just married actress Janet Jones. On August 9, 1988, it happened. The Edmonton Oilers traded Wayne Gretzky to the Los Angeles Kings.
And it's with mixed emotions, a heavy heart for our community and our hockey club, but I guess with delight and sincere best wishes for Wayne Gretzky, that I announce, and I guess more important, confirm that the Edmonton Oilers have agreed to trade Wayne Gretzky to Los Angeles.
I'm disappointed about having to leave Edmonton. I truly admire all the fans and respect everyone over the years. But coming back. So as I said, promised Mess I wouldn't do this. But as I said, there comes a time when
The trade was not well received, obviously. Pocklington received intense fan backlash. The Canadian government even tried to block it. However, to this day, Pocklington still defends the trade. Mark Messier took over as team captain. While the Oilers still made the playoffs in 1989, they were not the juggernaut they were without Gretzky. Ironically, in the first round, they faced Wayne Gretzky's Kings. The Oilers would end up blowing a 3-1 series lead. After the playoff exit, Glenn Sather stepped down as coach, but remained as GM and president. Longtime assistant John Muckler took over. The team faced adversity when longtime goalie Grant Furr was sidelined early. However, backup Bill Ranford played well in his absence. Even without Gretzky, Lowe, Curry, and Simpson proved to be a solid tandem. Mark Messier would take home the Hart Trophy, leading the Oilers back to the playoffs. In the first round, the Oilers came back from 3-1 to beat the Winnipeg Jets. They got revenge on the Kings and Gretzky and swept them in 4 games. The Oilers would defeat the Blackhawks thanks to Mark Messier's effort to make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Facing off against the Boston Bruins, they would set the record for longest Stanley Cup game in Game 1, an Oilers win. The Oilers would go on to win the Stanley Cup in 5 games, their 5th Stanley Cup.
Gould gets in there. The Oilers are going to clear. Once again, Hockey Night in Canada salutes the Edmonton Oilers, Stanley Cup champions 1990.
Bill Ranford was awarded the Conn Smythe for his amazing goaltending this series. This would, however, be the last great moment of the dynasty. The 1991 offseason started with the Oilers losing another one of their star players. It was Jari Kurri who was unhappy with his contract situation. He would end up sitting out the year and played in Europe. Goaltender Granfer would miss most of the year with a drug suspension. The Oilers still made the playoffs in 1991 and beat the Calgary Flames in an epic 7-game first-round series. They would fall in the next round to the Minnesota North Stars. Coach John Muckler left for the Buffalo Sabres at the start of the offseason. The 1991 offseason was highlighted by rumors of players like Messier and Anderson being on the trade block. Messier had expressed dissatisfaction with the organization. He would be traded to the New York Rangers. Anderson was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs shortly after. The fans viewed the trade as Pocklington, who was still struggling financially, for trading players away to save cash for himself. Kevin Lowe became the new captain of the Oilers. In the first round, they faced Gretzky and the Los Angeles Kings, a Kings team that now had 5 former Oilers, including Jari Kurri and Paul Coffey. The Oilers still proved to have it as they beat them in 5 games. They made it to the conference finals but were swept by the Chicago Blackhawks. The Oilers had remained competitive despite losing several Hall of Fame players. However, the run of excellence was starting to come to an end. Edmonton had a loyal fan base, despite playing in a small market. Most fans by this time were frustrated by the team's failure to keep star players around. The attendance had been declining since the Gretzky trade. The 1993 season would be the first time since the Oilers entered the NHL that they failed to make the playoffs. The ride was officially over. Most of the players from the dynasty were gone. Some of them, however, still had successful careers elsewhere. Paul Coffey was a huge contributor to back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins in 91 and 92. In 93, the Los Angeles Kings, that now had 6 former Oilers, including Gretzky and Kurri on it, made it all the way to the Stanley Cup, where they lost in 5 games to the Montreal Canadiens. Mark Messier would become team captain of the New York Rangers and was the leader of their 1994 Stanley Cup team, their first Cup win in 53 years. He was joined by Lowe, Anderson, Graves, and McTavish, more former Oilers. Wayne Gretzky continued his excellent play with the LA Kings. The Kings, who had struggled with attendance and playoff success, quickly changed thanks to Gretzky. It even led to hockey becoming more popular in America. Gretzky finished his career with the St. Louis Blues and New York Rangers. He holds the record for most career points, assists, and goals, though Alexander Ovechkin is likely to break the goals record. Despite much success post-Edmonton, Gretzky would never win another ring. He's considered by most to be the greatest hockey player of all time. It's easy to believe if they had kept most of the roster together, they could have won more. Owner Peter Pocklington is often who most point the finger at for the dynasty ending, but he's not 100% at fault. Coach and GM Glenn Sather was unable to develop talent to replace the Hall of Famers, a hard task for anyone. Pocklington's financial troubles did not get any better through the 1990s, and he looked to sell the team. He almost sold the team to a group of Houston investors that would have moved the team, but at the last minute, 37 Edmonton businessmen agreed to buy the team from Pocklington, preventing relocation. GM Glenn Sather stayed with the team for a little bit longer. It even saw the team return to the playoffs. He would leave the Oilers in 2000 to become GM and president of the New York Rangers. The Oilers would return to being a regular playoff team in the late 90s. In 2006, they made a surprise run to the Stanley Cup Finals, losing to the Carolina Hurricanes. After the finals loss, the Oilers went 11 straight years missing the playoffs. They were often among the worst teams in the league and picked at the top of most drafts. It became known as the Decade of Darkness to most fans.
Steffen's attempt at the empty net hit a body, that's why there's no icing. Maybe one last gasp here for the Oilers. Bergeron fans on a pass, Steffen steals and he'll ice it. Oh, at least I thought he was gonna until he blew it. That's unbelievable. Here come the Oilers the other way, and Hemsky's loose. Hemsky, he scored! Can you believe what we just saw?
However, picking at the top of the draft allowed them to draft high prospects. In 2015, they won the draft lottery, drafting a generational talent in Connor McDavid. It took time, but in 2024, the Oilers made it back to the Stanley Cup, where they would lose in 7 games to the Florida Panthers. Owner Peter Pocklington would have it rough after selling the Oilers. His business struggled, he even sold off some of his Stanley Cup rings. He served 6 months of house arrest for lying under oath during an investigation. He is often blamed for the Oilers dynasty falling apart. In October 2014, the Oilers held a ceremony to celebrate the 30th anniversary of their first Stanley Cup. Pocklington returned to Edmonton. This is how the crowd greeted him. The Oilers fell off as quickly as they rose. They built a team of multiple Hall of Famers that won multiple cups. The Edmonton Oilers rose as quickly as they fell. They built up a team of multiple Hall of Famers that won multiple cups. While it's easy to wonder what they could have done, we should be more grateful for what they did do and what they were able to accomplish. They were able to do something that most NHL teams wish to do. They built a dynasty with many Hall of Fame players, and they were able to continue it for a very long time. The great teams of the 1980s are often remembered by both hockey fans and Oilers fans, who remember the special moments that were created.